The world that we live in today was forged by discomfort. You have to find ways to add discomfort. If you seek an easy life, you're definitely going to have a hard life. But if you seek difficulty, go out of your way for it, life gets easier. Losing muscle is like losing net worth. It's like losing your investment.
All right, Ted, so check this out. Yesterday, I had to go get blood work. And this is a pretty routine thing. Every quarter, my osteopath sends me in to get blood panels. Now, it's usually a pretty intensive blood panel, like, anywhere between 8 and 11 vials. And I get in there and I'm sitting down in the chair and, the lady's asking me all the questions. And she's like, are you sure you're going to be okay with this? And I'm like, yep, think I got it. And then she's like, okay, well, how long have you been fasting? I'm like, well, I'm 24 hours right now. And I was trying to do a 3-day fast, so I'm already 24 in. She's like, you're going to have to stop the fast after today. I'm like, all right, well, blood work, fast. I guess I understand. And she's like, do you think you're going to pass out? And I'm like, what is this, 20 questions? I'm like, I'm just here to get some blood panels. Like, come on. And she's like, and I'm like, no, I don't think I've ever had an issue. She's like, well, have you ever had this much blood taken? And I'm thinking, what in the hell are you looking at? So I asked her, I said, how many vials are they asking for? She's like, I'll tell you after I'm done. And I'm like, I'm pretty used to this blood work thing. And she's like, you know what? I think we're going to go into the recliner. I'm like, all right, great. I get a nap. She's like, I hope not. And I'm like sitting here, I'm like, I have no issues getting blood. I'm not afraid of needles. This is a pretty routine thing that I started doing, as I've kind of come through these different cycles of my life. You make more, you focus more on health, you get better doctors and things like that. And that's where I'm at. But like, lo and behold, I'll finish the story up. Like, it was 19 vials of blood. I did the math.
Wow.
And I asked the chat GPT, I said, somebody that weighs $153, 19 vials of blood, like how much blood is that? And it was 1 pint or 10% of my blood. And I'm like, holy crap. Now, after she did the blood, I didn't pass out, which she was super surprised. I stood up. I did feel a little lightheaded. And I'm like, wow, am I going to be able to drive home? But nonetheless, I didn't continue the fast. But the reason I wanted to start with that is it's just, wow, 19 vials of blood for what? What is this doc looking to get? And this is your space, and you've worked with some of the biggest names. I mean, you worked with Richard Branson, you've coached him, you have Robert Downey Jr., and hundreds of other CEOs. Like, is this normal that as we get to certain levels of wealth, as our wealth increases, we tend to just, I don't know if it's like just because we get better access to, docs that actually care, or is this like, I guess I'm just kind of confused as to how did I get to this place where now I go in every 3 months for these blood panels and, it was 8 vials, then 11, and now 19 vials of blood. Like, pretty soon, what are they going to do? Suck all the blood out of me and then transfuse it back in me? I mean, I don't know. They get that thing, that spin thing that they spin your blood. What is all this?
Yeah, I think it's pretty common, as you said. As you make more, you start to ask the question, like, how long am I going to be around to enjoy this? And not just how long, but what's going to be my quality of life as I get older? And we're starting to realize with the research that's coming out, like, there are the diseases we need to pay attention to: heart disease, neurodegenerative disease, cancer, metabolic disease. But the biggest issue is partly just getting older, right? So it's natural to look around, like, what can I do to at the very least, make the quality of my life as good as I can get it, so I can do all the things that I want to do. And I'd love to get into that conversation, because blood work is great, but it's not enough. You're a former pro athlete, but it's not enough. Like, you need to be on top of this stuff. And I'd say the other thing, Chris, is that the standard of care in the United States is very much searching for disease after it's already happened. For example, you had an extensive panel done, but I have entrepreneur clients. I look at their blood work. They had fasting glucose done. They didn't even look at hemoglobin A1C. Fasting glucose is, hey, let's sit you down, take your blood. What is your how much sugar is in your blood right now? Hemoglobin A1C is over a 2 or 3 month period. How elevated has your blood sugar been? And then even beyond that, even if you look okay or normal or within range, those aren't even the markers to test. What you want is fasting insulin and fasting glucose so you can calculate something called your HOMA-IR, which is really the measure, the metric to show how metabolically healthy that you are. And the reason I say that is a couple of reasons. Well, why don't doctors are smart. They go through a ton of school. Why aren't they doing that? Well, I think I mean, you would have to ask, but when I talk to doctors, it's like they're running a protocol. Patients would have to pay outside of insurance to get it done. And even very successful people, and we're talking north of $1 million of net worth, still kind of like there's a thing in America where we don't want to pay. Like I pay my insurance, I don't want to pay extra. But you know, they'll have a Rolex collection at home or whatever, you know? And so I think it's a combination of factors that kind of leads to the situation that we have today in the United States in particular. But I think just to answer the question more directly, it's completely normal to start asking those questions as you get older and with the resources to do something about it.
Well, it's interesting. You know, I have been asking those questions, and it really all started 2 years ago. I started getting sick a lot. You know, I'm nearing 50. You know, I'm not quite 50, a couple of years out, but getting closer and closer. And I've watched major changes in my body. You know, just I don't know, some of it because I'm a former athlete that has just trashed my body. You know, but I still try to keep my body tuned up by working out, swimming, and all these things. But I've watched things just deteriorate. I mean, pains like right now, I can't lift my shoulder above here because of a, catboarding trip out in BC that I was just on. I don't even know what happened. Like I fell a couple of times, no big deal. Hit a tree once, little pain, but and I get home and all of a sudden the next morning I wake up, I can't lift my arm. It's just like, these are just the signs of getting older. And as this whole thing has happened, I want to continue to go in the snowboard park. I want to do all the things. I want to run. I want to climb. I want to still be that 30-year-old version of myself. I mean, I wear this little Whoop thing, and literally the biggest thing I'm looking at Whoop for is every day I'm trying to get my Whoop age down, right? If I'm 48 now, last time I checked, it said I was, aging in at like 43. I need to have a 3 in front of that number. But in order to do all these things, like, I will agree, like prior to me, having means, wealth to be able to afford these things, I did what most people did. I bought health insurance, which was overpriced in my opinion. And in the US, I think there's a major health issue with our health insurance and our care. And when I was getting sick, I would go to my doctor, and my doctor would always just prescribe me an antibiotic. That was like the go-to. Get you in, get you out. You all have been there before. You go to the doctor. It's almost like you wait a half hour, 45 minutes in the waiting room, which took you 3 weeks to get that appointment. You go see the doc. You're like, all right, doc, here's what's going on, blah, blah, blah. The doc spends 5 minutes flat with you, if you're lucky, then just says, okay, here's an antibiotic. Go to the, blah, blah, blah. And the antibiotic fixes you. And then all of a sudden, as soon as you come off the antibiotic, at least my case, I got sick again, because I was on planes all the time and I'd get sick and it'd get worse. And the sinus infection just kept materially getting worse and worse and worse. I'd call and they kept just giving me antibiotics or this Flonase and all these things that I knew aren't good for you. So one day I literally just said, F this, man. I'm done with this. And I started seeking additional answers, ChatGPT and Google searches. Like, what is it that you do when you're not getting what you need? And they all pointed the same place. Got myself an osteopath, which is what these blood panels are. I take tons of supplements, which I hated in the beginning, but like now let's fast forward a little over a year. I was chronically ill back then. Sick all the time. If I was around my daughter after she was sick, I knew it. I'm getting a cold, and that cold's going to turn into a sinus infection, and I'm going to get really sick and probably have to lose a day of work and, all this other stuff. And now blood panels every 3 months. Now I take all these supplements. I intermittent fast daily. I do a 3-day fast once a month. And these are all things that were hard to adapt to, but that I did. I haven't been sick at all. I have been around people that are sick, sneezing, coughing. And I literally, I'm like, I'm not going to get sick. And I haven't. And but the thing is like all that stuff I just described costs a lot of money. Like each doctor visit's like $600 because they don't accept insurance. So then I kind of got pissed at that too. And sorry, I'm rambling here, but like this all plays into this whole thing of like, you got to have the means to get the good care like this. So I got so sick of like having to spend $600 per visit. I was almost not wanting to go to the osteopath because I'm like, I don't want to spend $600, even though I can use my HSA for it. I still don't want to just blow money this way. So I started seeking, is there a better source for primary care, like a doctor that actually knows my name and cares about me? And I found this VIP service. It was brought to me by one of my neighbors at a party. And he said, you pay $2,000 a year. It's like a subscription service. And you go to this MD who's part of this VIP program. And when I did this, I couldn't believe it. I walk into this tiny little office, really small, in this kind of nonchalant place. But it was like freaking concierge, man. Like, they did all the testing. They cared. They got to know me really well. The first 2-hour meeting with a doctor, 2 hours just sitting there talking to him. All he was asking is, what is going on with Chris? What are you fighting? What are the things you're trying to do? What are the things you care about? What do you want the future to look like? And then they literally did a plan of care for that, did all the tests. But again, that was $2,000 plus my health insurance that I have to pay for, plus any visits to the osteopath. Like you're talking thousands of dollars a year just to get this level of care. And I think I'm just at the surface level of like what's possible from a medical standpoint. Like, why is this care and all these things only available to people with the means? Like, shouldn't this be normal?
Well, I mean, I work with affluent clients. So, but you don't have to, like, we could break it down to the basics where if we're talking about someone who maybe doesn't have that much money, there's a lot you can do. Do you need extensive health tests? You don't need them. You can go by, like, for example, you can calculate your BMI with your height and your weight. And if you're overweight or obese, you better do something about it. And just to be clear here, right? I think it's important too that we prioritize what you should focus on. So if you have a belly, you need to get rid of it. There are aesthetic standards in our society, and that's a separate conversation. But what we know is that if you concentrate body fat around your midsection, which most men and some women do, that's not just the subcutaneous body fat underneath the skin and in between the muscle and the skin. You're going to have some visceral fat. Visceral fat is the fat that is around and inside your organs. Ooh. For example, what is diabetes caused by? The average person will say, oh, too much sugar. That's like sugar's throwing gasoline on a fire. What is the fire caused by? What started the fire? The fire is for metabolic dysfunction that, ends up turning into diabetes. The fact that you have so much fat, you've eaten so much and stored fat subcutaneously in your muscles, and now you're storing fat in your liver and in your pancreas. And what ends up happening is that those fat cells inside your liver and your pancreas start releasing inflammatory chemicals, damaging cells. And if you stay that way long enough, you'll get diabetes. And if you stay diabetic long enough, you can't reverse it. You can actually reverse it.
A really important question about diabetes. It's very common. My mother has diabetes, and every person who has diabetes, when you ask them, what's the cause, they usually will say it's hereditary. My grandma or my mom had diabetes, therefore I'm going to get it. And that just seems to be like, you mentioned throwing gas on the fire. It just seems to be the common default answer is just, well, my mom had it, so I'm going to have it. And then once they're diagnosed with diabetes, like the path is, well, I have to eat this or I have to do this and maintain it, because if I don't, like, I talked to my mom about fasting and she's like, oh, I could never fast. I'm like, well, I think you can. It just has to be under supervision. But I mean, people that get diabetes, I truly believe the body can heal itself of that. I've seen many people that have done it, but yet these people, they think that it's chronic. They think that they're never, ever, ever going to be able to get rid of diabetes. What is the truth behind that?
Yeah, well, there's two sides to it. And we know that if your cells are too damaged, you can't come back from it. But most likely, I mean, you should give it a try if you are there. So there is a hereditary component to diabetes. For example, it's called your personal fat threshold. We know that different people, and there's genetic differences here, people from South Asia, for example, Bangladesh, India, and people from China. For example, China has a higher rate of diabetes at a lower BMI than Americans. Why is that? Some people store fat inside their organs more easily, but it's a bit of a cop-out answer, because at the end of the day, it's ultimately going to be determined by your behaviors, by your diet, by your exercise. And you would say that genetics just kind of determines at what body fat percentage will be the straw that broke the camel's back, type of thing. And you can see this in that, going back to what we started with. If you get certain biomarkers tested, you can see it happening 10 to 15 years before it shows up as a diabetes or even pre-diabetes diagnosis. So doctors use hemoglobin A1C to diagnose diabetes. That's like the typical thing that they use. But if you get your fasting insulin, get your C-peptide, fasting glucose, you can see it coming. And I'll tell you, Chris, I'm not a fan of fasting either. It's got benefits to it, but the hardest thing, especially with clients, is that it's kind of like saying, you're a former pro snowboarder, for example. It's kind of like saying, hey, I've never been snowboarding. Like, take me snowboarding. And you're like, okay, cool. We're going to go up this ramp and we're going to do a flip and land. And this is how it's done. And I know I'm going to wipe out, right? Trying to follow you up that ramp. And what happens with a lot of people, and this is the behavioral side of things, which I'll be honest, Chris, I'm really into the science. I love getting into the weeds, right, on biohacks and blood tests. But most people have more of a behavioral issue. They cannot change their behavior. I know what to do. I don't do it. Or I do it and then I go on vacation. Like, for example, I have a client, best-selling author, very in demand for his work that he does. And he was doing amazing, flew from South America to Europe to sell his house in Lisbon, got sick along the way, because it's normal, like you were talking about, when you're traveling, you're exposed to a lot of people who are sick. You're probably under some stress. You are also, in his case at least, you're going to experience circadian disruption, because there's, a 5 or 6 hour time difference. That's not just for free, right? You can't just show up and be like, well, I'm going to go to bed at night. No, your body takes time to adjust. And if you measure, like, you have a Whoop, I got an Aura. If you measure resting heart rate, you'll see it'll bounce up.
Spikes.
Yeah, 10 beats, which is a huge sign of stress on your body, right? And so, especially in that type of situation. So, like, he fell off because he did this big travel, came back, got sick, and he didn't know how to get back on. And then he started this conversation like, I don't really care. Like, why did I fall off? Maybe I need to go deep into my childhood and why is self-sabotage. I was like, man,
Wow.
dude, you got sick. That's normal. This isn't like, you don't need to go that deep. I feel like in some cases people do have deep issues, and we refer out when necessary, where we have people, other experts who we're connected with, but it's not usually that deep, Chris. And it's changing your behavior and recognizing stress is typically the thing that causes people to quit. Because just like if you're learning snowboarding or tennis, if the challenge is just right, if you, instead of taking me and trying to get me to jump off the ramp and do a flip and land and not, break my ankle, if you say, hey, listen, we're just going to slide down this very mild hill and you're just going to keep your balance. And then you know what? We're going to go down a hill that's even more steep and just progress from there, just like anything. But a lot of people, what they do, they're like, oh man, I'm tired of looking at myself in the mirror. I need to get in shape. It's the beginning of the year. Let's make it happen. And they bite off more than they can chew. And either they run into a situation where they've heard eat less, move more. So they're working out 7 days a week and trying to eat as clean as possible. So it creates a big calorie deficit. They start losing weight, but hunger spikes. You start getting exhausted in the gym. And then eventually you quit, or you get injured, or you go on vacation, have to take a business trip. You end up in a new environment. So you can't do your workout because the gym's different and you don't know how to adapt it. Also, the food environment's different. And so you're just eating breakfast at the restaurant in the hotel and then going out with clients or friends at night. And right, you're completely off your routine and you don't know how to adapt to it. And that creates that internal dialogue, giving a case of the efforts. And then you stop and then you'll say, you know what, I'm too busy. It's not the right time. I'll start next year.
That makes a lot of sense. And that's pretty much all the people I know. But, today, a lot of people are overweight. I mean, the food we eat is terrible. Did you see that Kennedy reversed the food pyramid like South Park episode? Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw it.
What are your thoughts on that? Where wheat's at the bottom now?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I'll tell you what I really think. So we stopped using the original food pyramid a long time, like 15 years ago. And so we were using My Plate more recently. But there's this kind of like conversation online, because I'm part of it, right? On Twitter or X. And like people just hate on the food pyramid. It's been blamed. And yeah, but that thing's from the 80s, man. It's like you look at anything from the 80s, it sucks compared to 2026. And so what was more recent was My Plate. Nobody even talks about it.
No.
But I also like I think at a different level, I think he's a better representative of like what health could be. The guy's in his 70s, I forget exactly, but he's fit. He's fit. And I think that is probably more inspiring. And also with the chemicals, like I get it, I'm concerned about that too, but it's kind of like, oh man, the lawn is overgrown. It's like, yeah, but there's smoke coming out of your house because it's on fire. Let's get rid of the red number 5, but changing seed oils for tallow, if you're eating the same amount, I mean, if you're eating French fries and you think changing the oil to tallow is going to be a big needle mover in your health, I mean, you just don't understand, right? You've been on social media too long. And I want to say one more thing. We're in an environment right now where you're not getting information, you're getting what makes the algorithm work. And you and I, we have to play that game. And probably one of the biggest issues I have playing that game and why I don't have like a million followers is because I know what works. I know exactly what to say, and I know what people want to hear. But just ethically, and also for my business, like I can't just, say things and then people come to me and it's like, well, that's not what you said on your reel on Instagram. Like, right? So we're living in an age where it's really about what goes viral, what captures attention. And there's so many things that don't get enough love, and they never will, at least in this current environment. For example, isometric exercise, amazing. But compared to like doing a burpee, backflip, clean and jerk, no, you're going to look at that guy doing that combination of crazy exercise and say, you know what? That's what optimal, like that's what I should aspire to do. So I think probably, I mean, I'm just going to try to make some analogies with finances. If I'm off, feel free to correct, but, you know, probably like running a business, lead gen, sales, fulfillment, retention, it's basic principles, but done over and over and over, right? It's the same thing with health. And some things that people aren't even focused on. What's your VO2 max, right? People don't understand. One thing that just drives me nuts is like the talk about the TRT. It's like I'm fat. I work out all the time though. I eat clean. It's like, but my T levels are low. It's like your T levels are low because you're fat, right? You think you're doing the right things, but you're not. And also you're having libido issues because you're a few years behind on your cardiovascular workouts. One thing that I've changed, I'm 48, I'm about to be 49 in, gosh, like 2 weeks. One thing that I've changed is like I've focused on cardiovascular conditioning. Lifting weights is awesome, but I think guys my age and a little bit older, we grow up in a time, I mean, tell me if you resonate, but it's like, how much can you bench, bro?
Yep.
Like that's your measure of how manly you are. Okay, cool, in your 20s, right? But like as you get 40 and beyond, you got to focus on your cardiovascular system. And we know if you're like an elite level lifter, let's say, it actually can cause negative changes to your cardiovascular system. Okay, this is at the elite level. So if you're not deadlifting 700 pounds and putting up crazy numbers, it's not something you need to worry about. But just to understand, when you lift weights, because a lot of people think, oh, my heart beats fast when I lift weights. Yeah, but it's totally different, the mechanism. And we know if done to extreme, what happens is something called concentric hypertrophy of your arteries. And what that means is your arteries get stiffer. For example, I used to be that guy. I was never that strong. Like I deadlifted 350 pounds was my max, right? But I started getting high blood pressure in my 30s and I didn't understand why. I was lifting, I was lean. And it was like, dude, you have a serious deficiency of cardiovascular exercise. So one of the biggest conversations now is what is your VO2 max? Which is the measurement of how effective your body can utilize oxygen, or, said more simply, like how cardiovascularly fit are you?
I did
Because
not know
people
what
say,
that
why
was.
do
Whoop
cardio?
tells you that, and it's always like a measure, and I never knew what that meant. So thank you for that.
Yeah, sure. So your VO2 max on Whoop, I wouldn't pay attention to it. If you have a Garmin, yeah, I mean, it's something to pay attention to, but it's not accurate, right? You need a Garmin or to do some type of test. Like you can get your VO2 max tested in a lab. Probably you don't need to do that. You can do the 12-minute, what's called the Cooper test, or if you're really out of shape and you can't run, do the Rockport walk test, and get an idea of what your VO2 max is. And VO2 max is so important because let's say you're an elite level cross country skier from Norway and you won the gold medal in the Olympics. No one better than you, at least at that time. And you know what? You've never stopped training. You've been consistent. You never got that sick. Just your VO2 max is still going to decline as you get older, right? And so for us who maybe aren't at that level or even close to it, in my case, right? I need to be on top. What is my VO2 max? What is it? It should be done yearly. In fact, one of the things, you talked about getting sick. The biggest thing, because I've already been taking all the supplements and running blood work. The biggest thing that moved the needle a few years ago for me is improving my cardiorespiratory fitness. And we know, one of the good things that came out of COVID, not to go back there, but one of the good things that came out of COVID was a study showing like people who had better cardiorespiratory fitness or higher VO2 max, they got sick less often. And it wasn't as the symptoms weren't as severe, right? It's one of those things. Like, so for example, you're swimming, even taking your situation, I don't know about the whoop, but I would test yourself, right? It's good to get in there and put in the work, but it's good. It's even better to have some directionality. Are you trending up? Because if you're 50 or almost 50 and your VO2 max is 40 or less, you've got a lot of work to do. Ideally, you'd want to be in the top 1%, but shooting for 50 as close as you can get to it if you're a busy guy, because it takes a lot of work to boost your VO2 max. It's not as simple as throwing some HIIT training and going for a couple runs. You got to be more intentional about it, and it takes time, but it's something that everyone can do. So I'm kind of going off, but I'll stop there.
Your real estate business lives and dies by the network and the connections that you make. I mean, after all, your network, well, it's your net worth. That's what you always heard, right? If that's an area where you desire improvement, well, Private Money Club, it's for you. PMC saves you precious time and money by bringing the real estate world, well, right to you, right in the palm of your hand. So get in on the action like so many others have by going to privatemoneyclub.com and sign up.
No, that's good because, like you mentioned, like I was always in the gym, even up through last year. Like I thought I was in great shape. I was in the gym, no less than 3 days a week. I looked great, but I didn't feel great. And that was back when I was getting sick. And then in this past summer, I started running again, which I usually do in the spring and summer. Then I started riding my bike, and then I started swimming, and I fell in love with swimming. So I haven't been back to the gym, but I swim almost every day of the week. While my shoulders, working, I do, and I've noticed dramatic differences. And I almost, it's kind of funny. Like, let me parlay this over, and this is, I know you teach this and you coach this because you work with these type of people, but I'm the type of person that I like to model people that set an example. So when I think about, like you were just mentioning two people, or I mentioned them, Richard Branson and Robert Downey Jr., like, right, high profile people, but both in pretty darn good shape, especially Richard Branson. And, when I see them, I'm like, okay, what are they doing different? Because how old is Richard now? He's got to be getting up there.
Yeah, I think he's close to 80.
Does not look 80. Like, so whatever he's doing, sign me up. What's that cost for me to look like him when I'm 80, right? But I'm 48, I'm your age, right? So I go swim, and I started seeing, these really successful guys, like over at the pool at the high school, 5:30 in the morning are all these guys. And I didn't know who these guys are, but when you start doing something for a while, you start learning what these people do. Every one of these individuals in the pool who can outswim me, like these people are just in great shape. They're all in their 60s, probably close to 70, in great shape, but they're all men and women of means. Like, they all have done well. So when I see that, I'm like, this is the fountain of youth. So like, I tend to emulate and go toward things when people are living or looking like they're living the life that I want. And that's how I do things. So like with what you do, like, all this stuff resonates with me, and it might not resonate with everybody listening, but it's like, I know there's a cost for these things, but like, my health is more valuable than anything, because I've met so many sick people that are very wealthy, and they would trade all the money that they have. They'd go to zero. They'd go to poverty. They'd exchange seats in lives with, a homeless person just to have their health. Because like, once you lose it, you don't always get it back. So I just try to get ahead of that. And what I see, and when I tell people about what I do, they say you're crazy. Like when I talk to people about fasting, and I know you're not a huge fan, but I like fasting and swimming and doing all of it. They almost think it's like torture. Like, I can't believe you do that to yourself. You do what to myself? Like they're almost talking to me in the sense of like, they feel bad for me. Like I'm self-torturing myself with fasting and with swimming every single day. But then I look at them and I'm like, I feel bad for you. Like, you probably couldn't run up to the top of these stairs without huffing and puffing, but the answer today, and it's probably just me being more aware of these things, is a pill. Right now they have pills. I believe it's a pill format where if you're overweight, you just start taking this pill. Ozempic, I think, is one of them. And there's several of them now. And then all of a sudden you lose all your weight. Like, why is that the direction we go? And I think you already hit it, but like, is the pill,
oh yeah,
weight loss pills, is that really an answer? Does that put you in a better place if you're overweight? Is that a good place to start, or is that just a means to an end?
Oh man. So a couple of things. Yeah, I want to talk about what you said, where people look at you fasting, and then they think about that and they don't think about their own situation where it's like, yeah, but guess what? You're going to lose your sex drive and not be able to have sex anymore because blood won't get to where it needs to go. And you're so out of shape, just things will stop working. Or you get your diabetes diagnosis, have to get parts cut off of you, right? Your toe, because you didn't I don't want to go off on a tangent on why that happens.
You could go on a tangent.
Well, people stop feeling like they get nerve damage. They don't feel something. They don't feel like an injury. And then it turns into something bigger because high blood sugar, like in the case of diabetics, it starts damaging organs. It starts damaging nerves. You can lose your vision because of diabetes. It's really crazy. So anyway, they're not thinking about it. But what I wanted to say, and I think Michael Easter in his book, The Comfort Crisis, really got into this. And I think this is even more true as we become more comfortable and more successful, where not flying business class is like, oh man, that's stressful, right? We have to go out of our way to find things to bring us back to like, hey, the world that we live in today was forged by discomfort. You have to find ways to add discomfort. It doesn't necessarily have to be fasting. And I don't have anything against fasting. I like Walter Longo's fasting mimicking diet, for example. I think it's a smoother way to do things. It's 5 days long, but you don't have to go full caloric restriction. But then again, if you find it easier in your case, Chris,
listen,
to just not eat at all.
There's nothing easy about fasting, but that's what I like about it. Call me sick, but I believe you got to get the hard stuff out of the way in life. I think that's the path. The obstacles, is the path. And for me, like fasting sucks. Anything longer than like a 24-hour fast, it's really hard. And the reason it's gotten easier for me is just because I do it every month. I've conditioned my mind. It is literally 100% mental to just be okay with it. When I'm doing it, I don't like it. It sucks. My wife always seems to cook the most amazing meals on the second to third day of the fast. Yeah. Maybe it's just torture. And I want to eat, but I don't. And it's just, I've just conditioned myself. But same thing with swimming. Swimming isn't to me fun. I don't do it because I love swimming. I didn't grow up swimming. It to me kind of sucks, but it's I get the hard stuff out of the way because I know it's good for me. And you mentioned that, but I know that's not the norm. Maybe I'm the wacko in this whole thing, but you know what? That's just how I operate.
Well, I think we have to go out of our way. Here's the thing. If you seek an easy life, you're definitely going to have a hard life. But if you seek difficulty, go out of your way for it, life gets easier because of the things you mentioned. You become more resilient mindset-wise. You don't get into victim mode. Why me? Why me? Because those people who were saying, oh, I can't believe you do that to yourself. It's so delicious to have a piece of pie. I also think we don't understand. Man, I don't know how deep you want to get, but I think a lot of people are not really that happy in life, especially Americans. A lot of mental health issues. and connection and relationships. That can be a driver. For example, I had a client and he was also started taking a GLP-1, and I'll give you my thoughts on that in a second. But he was drinking a lot, successful guy, drinking a lot. And I was like, "What's up? Why are you drinking so much?" He's like, "I don't really know. Part of it is I don't really feel bad from doing it." By the way, some people don't. They're more resistant. If I had a glass of wine last night, I was like, "Oh, I felt that." But some people, they drink a lot more than that. They don't have the same type of recovery cost. However, it still affects your body. Anyway, we got into having a conversation about it. And I was like, "Well, but what's going on? Like, why are you?" Because when people are doing that, it's one thing like, "Hey, I'm out with Chris. We're celebrating. We're having a couple glasses of wine." But it's another thing when you're kind of using it to externally regulate your emotions. And in his case, we had a conversation and he was having problems with his wife. He's like, "Well, I drink a lot less when my wife's out of town." I was like, "Man, there's no diet to fix that. There's no supplement, no diet. Actually, you can take antabuse. That's a medication that makes you extremely sick if you drink alcohol. Talk to your doctor about it if you're in a situation like that and feel like it might work." So people aren't dealing with sometimes it's like people need. I'm not a couples therapist, right? I help and I help direct, but yeah, I'm not getting them together and doing therapy. And she was having trouble because she was going through menopause. And menopause, man, and I don't really, I specialize in working with men, but some women fall, and I think this is important for your men listeners. Some women fall off a cliff, their testosterone tanks, their other hormones change, they get depressed, they get all types of things happen. So if they're not getting the right care and you're going through that, I'm assuming that most of your watchers, listeners are men. Like, it's really important to support your wife in that way and make sure she gets the help and she doesn't just, fall off the cliff and all these things happen and she doesn't know what's going on, because it's hard to kind of look at yourself and say, oh, this is just symptoms of, hormonal dysregulation, and I should go have someone help me with it, get on HRT or whatever the case may be. So keep that in mind, guys. But sometimes the medication's necessary, sometimes it's not. With the GLP-1s, I think some people need it because they won't be able to do it without it. And I think the reward for some people outweighs the risk, but it's not a free ride. More and more side effects are coming out. What are we going to find out in 10 years? Some like thyroid cancer. And even if it works for you and you don't do the right things, like I should say this first, it is, man, a pharmaceutical, big pharma, huge win. Both because like everybody like so many people want it. And then also because it's probably the most effective weight loss approach ever, because you're just taking an injection. The pills aren't strong enough yet. And I have some clients who are on it. I've had clients where they were taking it and it didn't create a big difference, because what it does, by the way, any idea how it works, Chris?
No idea. I mean, I know it was created for something else, and they found that the side effect was weight loss. Maybe diabetes, maybe is what it was. I don't remember. But no, I have no idea what it does.
It was created for diabetes, but how it works is so interesting. All it does is there's a part of your brain called your hypothalamus. It helps regulate your appetite, and it just turns the volume down. So so many people, this is not me, so I can't relate on an experiential level, but it's like, man, piece of pie would be good right now, or some cookies, or wow, a hamburger and some fries would really hit the spot, or whatever it is. Some people have that going on a lot more than others. And so all it doesn't do anything with your metabolism or It doesn't speed up your metabolism. It just manages your hunger. And then people eat less and lose a ton of weight. But the issue is up to like 25 or even 30% of that weight loss can be muscle. So if you think that's the way to go and you don't have to do anything, because you don't even have to exercise, you just inject this and lose the weight. But the issue is you'll be in a way healthier because it's so bad to be fat, right? It's so bad to be obese.
You're right.
But you're not in a great place. Losing muscle is like losing net worth. It's like losing your investment. And if you don't work to bring that back, I mean, if you ever look at like the people that you admire so much at the pool, what are they doing? They're active. That's the one key thing we know. Like the type of life you don't want is really clear. Oh, can you help me up? I can't get up out of the chair. Oh, where's my walker? Oh, I gotta get a death grip on the handrail because I'm so unsteady taking step after step. Oh my gosh, I slipped and fell, broke my hip, and now I'm in the hospital, and I even lose more muscle mass and more strength, and now I'm dead a few months later.
Yeah, we've all heard those stories. Common.
Yeah.
That's the life we don't want. I can tell you that right now. That's the life I don't want. Like, I want to be like Richard. I want to be, getting to my 80s and I'm the anomaly. I'm the 1% that like looks like I'm not 80, and still doing things that an 80-year-old people would be like, how do you even do that at your age? We've all seen the people, I've seen these people. I'm like, he's how old or she's how old? She looks great. Look at her. She's out there doing this. And that's it. They did the hard stuff and they worked with people like you, like there's no real secret, the shame to the whole thing is it does take means because you don't work for free, but the results are what they are. And I bet you if you went to any hospital, any nursing home, or if you could talk to anybody that, was at the cemetery and you asked them, would you have given it all up for another year? Would you have given it all up for your health back? The answer would be probably 100% yes. So why do we wait till it's too late? Why do we wait to the point where it's, past the point of no return to decide it's worth it? It's worth it to spend the money on yourself. It's worth it to spend the money on your health and get someone like you and your company to do this. I mean, your podcast spells it all out, the legendary life. I mean, I know I was on it and lots of other people have been on it, but like you talk about this isn't just one consolidated insight. You deal with this every day on every episode.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just a mindset and it's changing. It's changing. It's just kind of changing in a way that's more directed by social media. For example, peptides are really hot right now. The MOTS-C, I don't know if you've heard of that or into that.
Yeah, I was injecting myself
BPC.
with peptides. I gotta get more of those. I just don't know which one does what and what do I need.
Yeah, exactly. And it's best. That's outside. The injectables are outside of what I work with, right? Some guys will give you information on it. I don't mess around with that stuff. Although BPC 157 seems relatively safe. Yeah, the peptides are interesting. They're never going to be in a situation where a drug company is going to come in and do randomized controlled trials, which is what you would do with drugs like the GLP-1s, which are also peptides, by the way. That's never going to happen, unfortunately. They're just in this gray market where, a company would have to do the research by the goodness of their heart and not because it's going to be financially a good move for them. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you get good information. Abud, oh gosh, I don't know his handle right off the bat, but there's someone I follow on Twitter who I get a lot of information. I really want to get him on the podcast. Maybe you can get him on yours too if you're interested. But he's someone I follow, and I'm very careful about who I follow. But here's the thing. If you think peptides are going to be the solution when you're not doing the basics, you don't have to listen to me. Go and try it, but you'll learn, right? If you're not dialing in your exercise the right way, your sleep the right way, your nutrition, Peptides might help a little bit, but it's not going to change the game for you. And that's why a lot of guys get on TRT, going back to that thing. So his name's Abud Bakri, MD. He's a physician on Twitter. Give him a little shout out. But yeah, if you want to change your behavior, though, if you want to dial it in, yeah, you can have ChatGPT do it. You can listen to my podcast. I don't recommend ChatGPT. I mean, you can do it if you want, but I get guys all the time like, hey, I'm doing this ChatGPT workout. How's it going for you? Oh man, it's too much. It's like the funny thing about ChatGPT, at least at the moment, you have to already know what to do to prompt it correctly to spit something out that will actually work.
Correct.
Right? I use it all the time, but it's like getting dating advice. If you suck at dating, ChatGPT is going to mess you up, or investing. Like, you have to already know, and then you almost don't need it. Or you can follow my podcast, and of course, if you want to work with me, you can go to my website, legendarylifepodcast.com/apply, and we can have a conversation. But man, it's wild times, and I would even say the longevity stuff, we don't really know what is. We're 5 to 10 years away from like big breakthroughs, and all of our goals, if you care about longevity, should be to stay as healthy as possible so you can benefit from those breakthroughs. And one more thing I'll add, because I know we're coming up on time soon, but for those people who follow your channel, Chris, one marker of longevity that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, because I'd forget to talk about it too. It's like, if you're not doing well financially, that's going to cost you big time with longevity.
That's the biggest problem right now. So when you talk about financing, you talk about longevity, like you got to get it's kind of like what you were saying. You're like, the main problem has to be the source. You got to go to the source. And that's the biggest problem right now in this country.
Is people not making enough money, struggling financially, too much debt. Yeah, chronic stress from that. And then you think, oh, you know what? My chest hurts, but yeah, it's probably just heartburn. I don't need to go to the doctor.
Oh boy.
Right?
That one doesn't work well for a lot of people when they say that, it's just heartburn. No, I think you should get to the hospital.
Yeah, you gotta realize, I mean, like you said earlier, it sounds like just some cliche that health is your greatest wealth, or right, it's the most important thing. But all you got to do is talk to someone who's sick, talk to someone who's at the end of their life, and it'll be real clear, right? Everything else, including family, they're not able to enjoy it, especially when like my dad didn't even want to really my dad died in 2020, poor health at 76. Not because of genetics, because his dad lived to 91 or 92. And then his mom lived until she was early 80s. But he died a solid, 7 to 10 years earlier than his parents because of health issues and behavior that were caused by his behavior. So yeah, make sure you put it first, because you'll eventually learn it's the truth.
Well, Ted, we're going to put that link in the chat. So if any of you are interested in working with Ted, we'll put 2 links. I'll put the podcast, The Legendary Life, and I'll also put the link. If you can just say that one more time, just so we get that down.
Yeah, legendarylifepodcast.com/apply if you want to have a conversation about working together.
There we go. So get with Ted, get your health right before it's too late. Even if you think you're past the point of no return, it's worth a phone call. Get it right. Do the hard stuff first. And listen, I can tell you from someone that was chronically sick, like the other side of it, which wasn't easy to get to and did cost some serious money, is far, far better than the life I was living a year or 2 years ago when I was sick every time I got off a plane. But you know what? It's your choice, folks. It's your choice. And Ted, you got to deal with that every day, right? You know you can help people, but they got to make that decision. That mindset has to change, right?
It's the foundation of everything.
All right. With that being said, Ted, thank you so much for your time, and thank all of you for joining us for this episode. And we will see you the next time on the Money School Elite podcast.